Alright, hey guys, welcome to You Missed Live Session 1. So we're going to go over what we did here. You can see this is our opening slide. I will always start with this whenever we have a session. We had a fun little bell ringer as we waited for students to get in class. So today was actually just very kind of syllabus heavy a little bit and making sure that we all knew what was going on as we talk about being on the same page. So this first thing right here, not the prettiest highlight on this, but we got it, is these are our quote-unquote synchronous sessions. So that's a word you're hearing a lot. And synchronous just means that they're at the same time. So you're going to see here that you have 2 live sessions a week. It does not matter which class you're in. You can have 2 of those. And then I have office hours each day. Office hours are optional. Once again, this is a tutoring time, so if you need to come in for questions, this is your chance to do so. Be like, hey, Miss Sample, I got no clue what you were talking about the other day in live session. Probably be a little bit more helpful than that. Be more like, I still don't understand what you mean by you get the 0 from a factor. Don't know what that means yet. We'll get there. But come in with questions. If you know that you're coming early, go ahead and send me an email. That way I can give you priority. I do teach 2 different types of classes, and so office hours are open to anyone. If I have one of my physics kids in there and they have a really hard question, but you emailed me, I'm going to go ahead and be like, hey, give me a second. I need to talk to so-and-so about IM3 real quick. So if you know you're coming early, or if you know that you're coming in advance, let me know. But yeah, that's what office hours are for. It's optional. It's 30 minutes. I'll write this down here. Hopefully you know, but it's 30 minutes Monday through Thursday. That is the same time for every single class. And then I have from 8 to 9 on Friday. I did not get to choose that. That is nice and early. Administration chose that for us, but that's where we'll be. So the next thing then we have are your asynchronous. That looks to be the same color. Let's try something different. You can't see that either. We're just going to keep trying till I find a color you can see. There we go. So what I don't have written here is that you'll have 3 asynchronous a week. These are meant to last about an hour each, and these can include an online lesson or a video or Florida Virtual School, and then there's typically an assignment attached to it. So it's really important that you're understanding that you have 2 here and 3 here, and that these are not the same. Live sessions do not replace online lessons, and online lessons do not replace live sessions. On a normal school week, you could see me 5 times a week. Well, 4 if we had a block day thrown in there. So we still are going to have about 5 different sessions a week. Just 2 of them are going to be live with me. 3 of them are going to be on your own time. Some people might want to do this on the same day. So if you have a live session with me in the morning, you might want to do your asynchronous that same day. I typically have the checklist set up that you're doing the asynchronous on the days that you're not meeting with me. That's kind of up to you there, but understand that those are what you have. So IM3 does not have a ton of Florida Virtual School. That's because the integrated system with very specific Tennessee standards just doesn't exist for Florida Virtual School. So unlike some of your other classes, say maybe English or maybe one of your science classes, where you'll be going in and doing a full Florida Virtual School course, we're doing as much as we can. The district has been really great and found us a lot of the lessons that do overlap, but at the district level, we're actually going to do a lot of our own stuff. So we will have Florida Virtual School lessons about once a week. You'll also see you might have something called an online lesson. That's typically going to be from, say, like illustrative math, or maybe it's on Desmos, maybe it's Khan Academy, but that's just going to be another location on where you can do your own online lesson. And I mean on your own pace. I will assign it, and it does need to be completed that week. You also have lesson videos. A lesson video is very similar to what I'm doing right now, where me or Ms. Zadanik will video ourselves teaching really from our iPads. And that's what we're going to do when we feel like the online lesson or the Florida Virtual School lesson doesn't hit everything that we think you need to know to be successful in IN3 at MLK. We'll go ahead and do our own lesson video with it. So once again, you have 2 live sessions a week. You're going to have 3 online or asynchronous lessons a week, and they could be supplemented or created from any of these things. The last thing I want to talk about terminology-wise is the wording here of assignment versus assessment. If you are used to the homework and summative categories, the 1090, that's really what we're talking about here. So assignments are going to be more of that homework. And just to give you some idea, things that are assignments, most of them are labeled assignment, but that also includes your discussions and your weekly reflection. That's going to go under that assignment category, which is more like your homework. Assessments are going to be your quizzes or tests, and that's more of that summative. Okay, so that's some of the lingo for you so they can get used to when I'm talking about these things, and you'll see these on your checklist, these exact vocabulary. So I want you to make sure you understand what this vocabulary means. The next one is talking about due dates. You're going to see that it's separated into assignments. I should have chosen the other color there. Assignments versus assessments. So we have 2 differences here. Each week you are given a checklist. It has due dates on it. Make sure you're paying attention to that. My recommendation is to do them on those days. The purpose of doing them on the days of the checklist is to make sure that you're doing them in correct math order. You have to learn certain math things in a specific order or they just don't make sense. And then also 2, so you don't get overwhelmed. You stay on pace. If you try to do all of your self-paced work on Friday for all of your classes, well, that's going to be a lot. Your classes are going to be giving you about 3 hours worth of self-paced work each week, and you try to put that all off until Friday, you're going to be completely overwhelmed. So doing it by the due dates here is what's going to allow you to stay on pace. However, I do recognize that it is self-paced, and you do get a lot of that freedom. So this is really what I'm telling you. Sunday at midnight. So for example, the things from the checklist, that's not going to write well. I'm just going to say it. I gave you a checklist yesterday on August 9th. Every assignment on that checklist is due by August 16th at midnight. So some of them say they were due today. Some say they're due tomorrow. They're not going to be counted late, but they will not be taken after Sunday. So if I log on Monday morning and you haven't turned it in, you're going to get a missing for that assignment. So keep that in mind. The second part then is assessment. These are quizzes. These are going to, or tests, quizzes and tests. These are only going to be open for a specific amount of time. It's going to be the 24 hours given on the due date. So for example, this week you have a quiz on 8/14. It is going to be open from midnight on 8/14 to midnight again on 8/14. Those 24 hours, you can do it anytime within those 24 hours, but it must be completed on Friday. Once you get into them, there's going to be a specific, or I guess I did those wrong. This is the window. There's a specific amount of time. So for example, once again, you have a quiz on 8/14. You must take it on 8/14, and then once you get into it, there's a 35-minute time limit. So all of your assessments, you'll be given a specific date to do them, and then B, once you get into them, there is a amount of time you can have it open. But I do want to say, we are understanding that times are weird. We know the different things that are going on. So just like if in person, If there is something that is causing you to not be able to get onto your computer on 8/14, you already know that it's not going to be possible that day. Maybe your entire family is driving to drop a sibling off at college. I don't know how much travel is actually happening due to COVID, but maybe that's the case, and you know that you won't have access to your internet and your computer on 8/14. Just send me an email, communicate that with me, and I'll work with you. That's what this goes for everything. If you need something, communicate with me. If you're not communicating with me, I'm just going to hold you to what we're saying right here in this PowerPoint. However, I am trying to be nice, and like I said, I want you to know that I understand things are weird. Maybe you didn't know you had assignments last week. Maybe you didn't know they were being graded. Maybe you were having technical issues. Maybe lots of things. And so I am trying to be nice. You're going to have until Wednesday, August 12th at midnight to complete these. Those are last week's assignment. That was the Getting to Know You project. That was the commenting on the Getting to Know You project and your mini quiz. These are 2 different grades, and I do not want to give zeros the first week of school. So for any reason you haven't completed these 2 assignments, they are in the week 1 required folder. In case you just haven't gone in there, please go in there, look at that folder, complete these once again by August 12th. That is an extension. They should have been done by midnight last night, but I am giving a quick extension for that. Okay, so I showed people Schoology today. The way my technology works during the live session, I was able to do it on my computer. Now that I'm doing it on my iPad, I'm gonna have to do it in my mobile app. So just recognize that this is going to look a little bit different than it does on your computer, but it works the same. This just doesn't do as much cool stuff. So I'm in second period because they've already had me. I've already gone through theirs. This is what everyone's Schoology page should look like right now. You'll see on the side it has upcoming things. Those will still be there even if you're online. There's just going to be more detail. Each week you need to go into, well, the week that you're on. So we're in the second week, August 10th through 14th. This is what it's going to look like for each class. As we go into it, it's extremely important that you look at the weekly schedule. This is that checklist that I've been telling you guys about, that I've already talked about multiple times. There we go. It's like my iPad is thinking. So I just told you about all this terminology. You're going to see you have an assignment, an assignment, an assignment, an assignment. Those are kind of like your homework grades. You're going to see that you have a quiz. That's a summative grade. So really paying attention to those. Anything that is bolded is going to be given a grade to go alongside it. So once again, if it's bolded, there is a grade. If it's not bolded, if it's italicized, so live session, lecture video, online lesson, Florida Virtual School lesson, those are your class things. Those are either your self-paced lessons or your live sessions. You can see once again, you had 1, 2 live sessions, and then 1, 2, 3 self-paced lessons. These are the due dates that I'm talking about that you should be trying to maintain. You should be trying to do things alongside these ones that I'm giving you. The quiz, as a reminder, will only be open on the day that it is scheduled. So you have to come in and take it that day. This little picture will be put up every time. If you ever want more detail, you can look at the attachment. It doesn't pull up great on mobile. It loads a lot better on your computer, but you can see it's a little bit more information. This is class specific. There is a note for you guys. So as you're looking at this, it says the due dates column is not in chronological order. The checklist is separated by learning objectives, not dates. So it's separated by what we are learning, not about when we're learning it. So you can see it goes August 10th, 12th, 13th, 13th, and then back to the 11th. So just pay attention that you're going in and you're reading the whole thing at the beginning of the week so you can kind of map out your week. As we look at this, and some people ask really good questions. It said that you had an online lesson that was due either August 10th or August 11th. And so you're like, well, where is that? Well, it's just in your required assignments. So here you'll see, it says exactly on this one, online lesson. So this was the exact wording that you saw on the checklist. I'm always going to do that for you guys so you can find it really quickly. And then it says, it tells you exactly what to do. Follow the above link to access the student lesson for verbal understandings of graphs. Complete the entire lesson in your notes. So you need to open it. See if it'll open. The internet's running a little slow. Okay, I got it to open. It's still loading a little bit, and it's going to tell you exactly what to do as you scroll down. So which one doesn't belong to mature over time, that's going to be up to you. You get to choose which one doesn't belong and explain why. Here's some more graphs that are talking about the raising of a flag, and it's going to ask you to describe like what would that actually mean for each of them. There's an are you ready for more, which is kind of cool. As you go in, it's going to give you more things, and notice that it actually opens Desmos inside of it. So these are really cool online interactive lessons. So it said to do this all in your notes. Then when you come back, right beneath that, so I was in the one that said online lesson, there's then this assignment. So this little pencil is telling me that it's an assignment. I'm going to click on it, and it might open. And it tells me what to do again. It says follow the above link, complete the assignment problems 1 through 7 in your notes, and then it says scan or take a picture of your assignment and upload it. So whenever you have an assignment, you will always be uploading it, either as a PDF or a Word document, but you'll always be uploading something. So those are kind of everything, once again, everything that was on the weekly schedule, you'll find them exactly where you need in the required assignments folder. If it has this puzzle piece next to it, know that that means that it is an assessment, so it will only be open for a very specific day. I honestly don't even know if you guys will be able to see this yet because it's not open on yours, but down here you can see that it says on 8/14 you have a quiz that should have popped up for you. So every single student, every single IM3 student in Miss Sample's class needs to get online, look at the weekly schedule, and complete every single thing in the required assignments. That is the bare minimum. That is what you are required to do. Then, say that you need some more help. Say that you need some more help. You can go under the extra resources and practice. So the online lesson that we just had pulled up, was about verbal understanding. So you can come over here and be like, oh, there's a verbal understanding extra practice. So maybe you want some more practice with what you were doing in that lesson, or you just want to see like what's a way that it could be assessed. You can see that under here. Towards the end of this video, we're going to talk about parent functions and types of functions. And if you're like, okay, Miss Sample, like we did that, but like why? You can come over here and see, oh, she found a blog talking about the importance of parent functions, and you could look at that. You have a Florida Virtual School lesson later on reviewing polynomials. Well, Ms. E went ahead and made a video that went over the key points of that to make sure that you really understood everything you're supposed to get from the Florida Virtual School. So if you feel like you're not getting what you need from the required, you need a little bit more help before coming to office hours, check this out. On the other hand, if you feel like this is just way too easy, or maybe not even that you feel that it's way too easy, you just like math and want to do some more, you're studying for the ACT, something like that, we'll always have an extension and a challenge for you. You see we have 2 different tasks here, what's known as the polynomial farm, and then we have the Music City money making task, and so you can do either of those, and that's just going to be an extension. So once again, the first 2 inside your folder, the weekly schedule and the required, is what every single student needs to be doing. The bottom 2 are just extra resources to make sure that you guys are as prepared as possible. So that's really what you're going to see inside of Schoology. All right, let's go back to that PowerPoint. Kahoot. Unfortunately, you did not come to the live session, so you don't get to do the Kahoot this time around. So maybe that is an incentive to come to the live sessions. I'll be utilizing Kahoot as much as I can to try and keep class engaging and interesting. So if you can, come to that. And we'll see how it goes. But unfortunately, we're going to move on. You will get the small mini lesson that went with the Kahoot afterwards. So just to let you know, the Kahoot was types of graphs. So this is the math lesson for today. We just talked a lot about Schoology and assignments and assessments and yada, 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 boring stuff. Let's talk about some math. So the question for each of these is going to be, what do we notice? We're trying to figure out when we look at a graph, when all we're given is a graph in front of us, can we identify what type of graph we're looking at? So this one are lines. Some of the things that your classmates noticed was that they are straight. Which means that there's a constant rate of change. Ooh, let's try that again. And a constant rate of change, just the really, really fancy word for that is slope. So those are things that make a line a line. Other thing that people noticed was that each of them has one x-intercept and one y-intercept. So those are really the things that people noticed in class. The next one we looked at was a quadratic. So hopefully you guys spent a decent amount of time talking about quadratics, and I am too. So what are some things we noticed about a quadratic? And the first things people said was, hey, that's a parabola. So quadratics are actually really cool. They have a name for their shape, which is a parabola. Some things about a parabola is that they have what is known as a vertex. And a vertex is either that super low point or that super high point that's in the middle of the kind of U shape. They are curved, so they have that U shape, which means there's no slope. Or a non-constant rate of change. And what we mean by a non-constant rate of change is that some places are steeper than others, some places are going up while other places are going down. Those are just some of the wording that gets that goes along with this. Other things people noticed was their symmetry. That is a really, really cool with quadratics. And what I mean by symmetry is, you notice I drew this line that goes from the vertex through it. Any point on that line that I drew, the distance you go left is the same distance you go right in order to get to the parabola. So there was 2. You go out 3, out 3. For here it's like a little bit less than 2, a little bit less than 2, maybe fully 2. So anytime the same direction that you go left is what you're going to do right. That's what we mean by symmetry. If we go back to the idea of x-intercepts, you can have up to 2 x-intercepts. And you can't see, I just tried to circle it way down here. This graph would keep going this way, but only one y-intercept. So these are some of the things that you guys need to know about a quadratic, and hopefully you did already know that. So lines, you've done for years. Quadratics, you really spent a lot of time doing last year. Now we're moving into ones that we've actually done, which we will do this year, which are polynomials. So there's some different things to notice with the polynomials. Someone wanted to say multiple vertices, but these aren't actually vertex or vertices, but you can notice there's multiple high points and multiple low points. We call those max and min. They're not known as a vertex because there's no symmetry around them. But they are high points and low points. So you can have multiple max and min. This one had 3 of them. This one only had 2 of them, versus a quadratic just has 1 and is a vertex. It is curvy. So a non-constant rate of change. Okay. Once again, if we look at the intercepts, this one had 1, 2, 3, 4. This one had 1, 2, 3. So we can have more than 2 x-intercepts. But once again, if we go back and look at the y-intercept, there is exactly 1 y-intercept. The last thing I want to talk about is the ends. So here, notice the ends are both going up, versus here I have an end going down and an end going up. When we were talking about lines, this one's going up, this one's going down, this one's going down, this one's going up. So they're going opposite here and opposite here. So no matter what line we're looking at, the ends are going to be going opposite of each other. With a parabola, it's going down here and down here, so it's together. It's going up here and up here, so it's together. Every single time we're looking at a quadratic, the ends are going to be going together. But if we come over here, these are going together and these are going opposite. So the ends can go in either way. We're going to learn as this unit goes on what in the equation tells us if they're together or if they're opposite. But really it could do either if it's an upper level polynomial. All right. We're going to go ahead and quickly look at exponentials. I'm missing the what do you notice box, but we know that it's actually there compared to our other ones. You guys have spent a lot of time with exponentials, so we can go through this really quickly. So most people notice that it's kind of flat off to one side, and then it gets really steep. So that is a key part of an exponential, where it's flat to one side and really steep on the other side. Some terminology that you might want. Where it's really flat, where it's getting really close, it's approaching. So what is known as a horizontal asymptote. Now that is hopefully a word that you've heard at some point in IM2, this horizontal asymptote. We're going to talk way more about them this year, but just to give you an idea. So that's what we're talking about, this flat part. What makes the graph do that, which makes it get flat and then not cross over it, is known as a horizontal asymptote. If we talk about our intercepts, well, the x-axis is down here, the x-axis is down here. I don't actually see an x-intercept. So it's possible to have no x-intercept. That's really common with an exponential, is to have no x-intercept. But also, once again, if we come in, there's exactly 1 y-intercept. So that's extremely common, is to have exactly 1 y-intercept. You can't have more than 1, because then it's not a function. And there's only really one type of graph that doesn't have 1 at all, or maybe 2 types of graph. But, so these are kind of the things that we know about an exponential. The last one is something else we're going to spend a ton of time learning about this year, but I just wanted to get you guys looking at them, and that is a rational. Immediately, most people notice is that it looks like multiple graphs. So that is one of the key things when we look at something and we know that it's rational, so it looks like it's multiple graphs. And it looks this way because it's actually asymptotes again. Notice I just drew this line which kind of split it top to bottom. That's still horizontal asymptote. It's a part of the graph where my graph gets close to it, but it doesn't actually touch it, and it causes some flatness in there. So what I mean by that, some flatness, you can kind of see like right here. It's going to flatten out. Over here, it's going to flatten out. Same thing, it's going to flatten out here. It's going to flatten out here. And it even made this U kind of flat through here. So a horizontal asymptote does exist. And it splits it top and bottom. But in order to have things on the top and the bottom, we also have to have things to the left and to the right. Well, if this imaginary line that went through horizontally was known as an asymptote, and it split up the graph, this imaginary line that goes up and down, that splits up my graph, well, it's also known as an asymptote. If left to right is horizontal, then up and down is vertical. And it's also known as an asymptote. The last thing we talked about again was those intercepts. We can have multiple x-intercepts. We've been talking about those. Both of the ones I showed you have a y-intercept, so one y-intercept. But I'm also going to say or no y-intercept. It's one of the few graphs where you might not have a y-intercept, and we'll look at more of those as the year goes on. Okay, so we've looked at all this together now. These are the different types of graphs, and the goal is for you to be able to look at a graph and immediately know what type of graph we're talking about, to have an idea about what these graphs might look like. And that was the end. So the last thing I asked was if you had questions. You guys obviously can't raise your hand right now because you're watching this on your own time because you missed our live session. So this is a reminder that if you come to the live session, you can't ask questions. For you, I would recommend come to office hours. So if you still have questions, if you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing, come to office hours. You do have 2 assignments to be working on. The first one is your online lesson plus its assignment. So that was a verbal understanding of graphs. The second thing that you're working on is your parent function assignment. And that goes with today's lesson. All right, so if you need anything, if you have questions, once again, come to office hours or email me.